Break, continue, and return are what are called jump statements. Break is used to exit from a loop or a switch case. Continue is used to move on to the next iteration in a loop. And return is used to return a value from a function, so you leave the function or method completely. If the definition was all you were looking for, there it is. If you want to have a bit of practical example as to how these are used and what they do, then let's move on. So in my scene here, I have on the camera added a component that I created, the jump statement component. If I click on play currently, you see that it says 0 Mississippi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Mississippi, and then you have now exited the for loop. If I look into the jump statement script itself, you'll see that this is what is happening. So on start, we use the break for example method, and the break for example method is a very simple for loop and a debug log at the end. So you have for I equals 0, I is smaller than 10, I plus plus. So it's going to start at 0 and go up to 10, well, go up to 9, I suppose, and then leave at 10. Every single iteration of this for loop, it will send out a message, debug log I plus Mississippi, which is what we saw earlier, and then if I is bigger or equal than 5, break. So in this case, what the break is doing is it's waiting until I is bigger or equal to 5, and then it leaves the for loop, and then moves on with the rest of the code in the method. So as we can see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have now exited the for loop. Let's try with another example of the break. Something you see more often, or at least I have, is in the case of a switch case statement. So I have created a tuto enum that just says yes, no, maybe, I don't know. I have created myself a private tuto enum. There we go. That by default I set to I don't know. And then with the break switch example, which I'm going to add to my start for later use, we have a switch in which it looks at the current value of tuto enum and then does one of the different cases. So we see yes, no, maybe, I don't know. And in each of these cases, it's going to exit a message. So if it's yes, yes entered, no, no entered, maybe, maybe entered, I don't know, can you repeat the question? It's going to select the one that is appropriate, spawn out the message, and then break. So it leaves the switch statement and shows the debug log, goes on with the rest of the method. If we show it in editor now, that tuto enum is set to yes, so if I press on play, you can see it says yes entered. You have now exited the switch. Turn this off. I'm going to go down to I don't know and click once more, and you see it has now entered I don't know. Can you repeat the question? And then it goes on with the rest of the method. You have now exited the switch. Okay, so that was for the break example. As you can see in break, it does whatever you have in the switch case or in the for loop, and once it hits break, it just leaves the for loop or the switch. Let's close these up and move on to the continue section. Continue works a little bit differently than the break. In our example here, you can see that the continue method is being used in a for loop once again, the same as we used in the for examples section. So iterator 0, I is smaller than 10, I plus plus. It's going to go all the way to 10 and then it's going to pop up. If I equals 2 or I equals 7, continue. And as long as this isn't the case, it's going to return the log is I is the number. And then at the very end, it says debug log, you have now exited the for loop. So in this case, what it's going to do is it's going to go through the for loop, and if I is equal to 2 or I equal to 7, it's going to continue. The result in our case is that if we play it now, you see that it says 0 is a number, 1 is a number, 2 is missing. It has continued, it's skipped over 2. And 3 is a number, 4, 5, 6, 7 is also missing, just like we had set up, 8 and 9. And then after that, it goes on with the rest of the method. This means that it doesn't break out of the for loop, and it doesn't leave the method that we have. It just skips over. It just goes on to the next iterator. So I equals 3. And then after that, once the for loop is done, it goes on with the rest of the method. Return, once again, is different. It's something that you've most likely used multiple times now. So our for loop here, exact same for loop, and I've left the exact same if statement as we had here. So if I equals to 2 or I equals to 7, return. In this case, what it's going to do is once it hits return, it's going to leave the method completely. So if we play it once more, here we go. 0 is the number, 1 is the number, and you can see that it has not said that we have left the for loop. This is because we've returned at this point. Once you hit return, you leave the method completely. And there we go. That's the difference between break, continue, and return.